What's up everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna continue working on the Lexus. So last time I dropped the engine in and I bolted on the tranny. Today I'm gonna figure out a couple of issues on the transmission. Apparently the flex plate doesn't want to bolt on, and also the flange, it's a little bit different diameter, so it's not lining up. So I'm gonna figure those two out today, and I'm also gonna work on the harness. I'm gonna remove this harness and I'm gonna get the other one ready. Another thing I'm gonna work on is gonna be the fuel system. I want to see if I install a new fuel pump and also the feed line. I'm gonna remove the feed line and I'm gonna go with AN fittings. So this is the fuel line right here, and I want to go with AN fittings, so I'm gonna replace that. And if I have enough time today, I want to install the intercooler and I want to bolt it on. Okay, so I'm gonna be removing the fuel line. So this right here, and right here I'm just gonna put an AN fitting. So from here on, everything's gonna be AN and still braided. Another thing I gotta do, I gotta remove this flex plate because it doesn't line up with the converter. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the flex plate, and I'm gonna put another one on. Okay, so I have the two flex plates right here. This is a GE and this is a GTE. So the diameter on the holes, it's slightly different and they don't line up. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I only put one bolt. This is the GE flex plate, and as you can see, the other ones, they're not lining up. This is the bottom one, so that's why I can't use this flex plate, and I'm gonna switch it to the other one. Okay, this is the GTE flex plate, and as you can see, all of them line up. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting this one on, and I'm gonna move on to the fuel pump. Okay, so I tried to replace the flanges so that it could bolt onto the driveline, but it didn't. The inside diameter, it's different, so it doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to keep the stock flange, and I'm gonna have to modify the driveline. Okay, so I took off the driveline. I have to modify the front because it's different. This one's smaller than the other one, so it doesn't bolt on. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that. I also removed the harness. I'm gonna remove this right here because I want to run the other intake, and it gets in the way. So I'm gonna remove this box, and here's the harness. I completely took it off. So I'm gonna start working on the harness, but before I do, I want to replace the fuel pump. It's an easy replacement, doesn't take that long. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the fuel pump, and I'm gonna come back to the harness. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the back seat and I'm gonna remove the fuel pump. So it's underneath this cover. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the cover and then take all the assembly off, and I'm just gonna work on it outside on the bench. Okay, so I removed the fuel pump assembly from the vehicle. The fuel pump is in here. So I'm gonna take this assembly apart and I'm just gonna replace the pump. I'm gonna put everything back together and it's gonna go back in the car. Okay, so I'm pretty much done installing the new pump. That's the new pump in there, and this is the old one. So I don't know the capacity on the stock one, but this is a 340 liter per hour, so at 40 pounds, so it should be enough. It should be good enough for what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna throw these away. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and install the fuel pump assembly. I'm gonna throw it back in the fuel tank, and then I'm gonna go back to the harness. Okay, so I removed the computer and the box. This is the wiring that I'm gonna be using to connect the new computer. I'm gonna be using this throttle body. This is the electronic throttle body from the 2J. So I'm gonna do a bracket or an adapter plate to bolt it on right here, and then I'm just gonna run the intercooler pipe into the bottom. And this is the computer right here that I removed. I'm not gonna be using this computer because this is a GE, and it has the which don't matter, but I mean this one has the immobilizer. But I mean regardless, I'm not using this computer. I got the harness over here. This is the GE harness. So I'm gonna go through the GE harness because there's some connectors that I don't know what they are, so I gotta figure out some of these connectors. I'm not gonna be using the harness though. And this is the GTE harness. So on the GTE harness, I gotta open it up as well because I'm gonna remove some connectors that I don't need, and I'm gonna get rid of some wires. But I'm gonna play with this for a while, and then I'll go, once I get it ready actually, I'll throw it back in the car. but I'm not gonna show much on the harness because it's a lot of work and I don't want to record all the process on doing the harness. So I'm gonna stop right here with the harness, and I'm gonna go back to the car. I'm gonna start doing some fittings and trying to get the intercooler bolted on and everything. And off camera, I'm gonna be doing the harness. So I'll come back with the harness once I have it ready to throw it on the car. I might throw a couple of clips while I work on the harness, but I'm not gonna show everything on the harness. Okay, so I decided to switch the turbo. I'm gonna be using this turbo from Drift Motion. So this is a 6262. I was gonna use this one, but this is a little older one. This is a Garrett, but it's a 6767, so I don't want to use that. I don't know how good it's gonna spool, and honestly I wanted to spool a little faster, and I've used these ones a lot. I know they spool pretty quick, so I'm happy with the way these ones work. So I'm gonna go with this one. I got the fitting for the return. Both of these are gonna be for the return. On the feet, it already has a fitting for the feet line. This one right here, I'm gonna use this one on the fuel. So this one goes underneath on the car for the main fuel line from the vehicle. So you bolt this on and it becomes a AN fitting. So I'm gonna go with the AN fitting. I'm gonna be installing this right now. And then these ones, I'm gonna install this one on the engine, and this one goes on the turbo. So I'm gonna install those right now. The turbo, I'm gonna remove it right now. I just put it on to see how it was gonna fit, and it fits a lot better than the other one. There's a lot more room. So I'm happy with this turbo. I'm gonna start doing the intercooler right now. So first I'm gonna install this fitting, and then I'm gonna start installing the intercooler, and after the intercooler I'm gonna do the intercooler piping, and then I'm gonna go back to finish the fuel system. Okay, so I'm gonna be using the AN fitting on the fuel line, and from here on everything I'm just gonna use steel braided and AN fittings. Okay, so I'm gonna start working on the intercooler. I'm gonna be using this one right here. So this is just a basic intercooler. It's like a 3-inch intercooler. It's like a 12 by 32 or 30, something like that. I don't even remember, but it should be good enough for this swap that I'm doing. So I'm gonna install the condenser and the radiator. I want to see how much space I have for the intercooler, and I think I'm gonna run the piping around it and to the top. I don't think I'm gonna go behind the headlight. If I have to, I'll probably will, but I don't want to. So I'm thinking about running the intercooler piping around the chassis and the core support through the top. And on this side, I think I'm gonna remove this windshield washer. It's broken, so I mean I'm not gonna need it anymore. And I think I'm gonna have to get rid of a couple of things, but I'm gonna install the condenser first, and maybe the radiator. If I don't need to, I won't, but I just want to see how much space I'm gonna have available. And after I install the intercooler, I'm gonna try to bolt on the turbo. So I got the turbo up here. It's covered, but it's down here. And I want to start doing the exhaust. So my goal is to finish the intercooler piping, the exhaust, and bolt on the turbo completely. And then I'm just gonna leave this side for last. But I mean, it should be simple. It shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, so I'm gonna install this condenser. I wanna keep AC, so I'm gonna try to keep the AC. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it or not, but for now I'm just gonna try to clear the condenser. So this is all the space I have for the intercooler. I'm gonna have to remove the front bumper, actually the bumper cover and the front bumper. I think I'm gonna have to modify the bumper because it's not gonna fit. If I install the intercooler, it's not gonna let me. So I'm gonna modify the bumper a little bit, and I'm just gonna try to make everything work with the plastic bumper cover. Okay, so pretty much here's where I'm gonna mount the intercooler. So I'm gonna have to shave a little bit right here so I can move it back, and shave a little bit right here on this bracket. And I'm just gonna leave it level with this. So it's gonna be lined up with the core support. That's where I'm gonna leave it, lined up to the core support. That way I have space in between, because I want to hook up the condenser. And I'm gonna have to shave the chassis a little bit. So I'm just gonna shave a little half circle right here so I can run the piping. So pretty much this one's is gonna be a U going back to the engine bay, and over here it's just gonna be a 90 and then another 90 going up. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna cut the bracket where I have to cut it, and I'm gonna weld some brackets underneath. So I'm just gonna weld a bracket to bolt it onto the intercooler, and then another bracket I'm gonna weld it to the core support so I can bolt it onto the intercooler. Okay, so I already did the brackets on the bottom. Now I'm gonna do the ones on the top. So I'm gonna be using this material. I'm just gonna do one, actually it's gonna be just a long piece from here to here, and in the middle I'm just gonna bolt it onto the core support. So it's just gonna be one piece and then another piece going up, and I'll probably reinforce it, and I'm just gonna weld everything together, and right here it's gonna be bolted on. I'll show you guys right now once I get it done. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with my bracket. This is gonna be for the intercooler on the top. So once it dries, I'm gonna bolt it on the intercooler. I'm gonna wait on the piping because I still gotta bolt on the turbo. It's loose, as you can see, it's loose, and then I have the wastegate right here. So I gotta weld the flange to the manifold, and then I could bolt on the wastegate. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna work on the wastegate, and then I'm gonna completely bolt on the manifold to the engine, the downpipe, the turbo, and then once I get everything all together, then I'm gonna start doing the intercooler piping. But for now, I'm gonna work on the wastegate and on the manifold, and then I'll come back to the bracket, bolt that on, and then I'm gonna start doing the intercooler piping. These wastegates, it's an eBay wastegate. It's not that bad, but you have to go through it and make sure it works properly, because this one, it was not sealing properly all the way. So when that happens, I had to machine the bottom of it so that the surface could seal properly. But what happens is that the turbo takes a minute to spool because all the exhaust gases are escaping through the wastegate. So when you buy one of those, make sure you go through the valve and make sure everything's working on it. I was also able to put air on the valve and make sure it opens and closes no problem. So it's working properly right now. But if it's an eBay item, make sure you go through it, make sure everything works, because you'll find a lot of surprises with those pieces. So I'm gonna go back to the manifold, weld that on, and then I'll come back with you guys. All right, so I'm removing this flange. This is what I had on the manifold, and I'm replacing it with a V-band. So I'm gonna be using the V-band style. So I'm gonna finish welding it on, and then I'm gonna put the wastegate, and I'm gonna make sure everything fits. Okay, so I'm done welding my flange, and I already put the wastegate. It's not completely bolted on. I just put it on just to see, because I want to start doing the downpipe, and I'm gonna do the dump pipe. So I'm gonna do both, and I need to have the wastegate on. I'm gonna bolt on the turbo, do the downpipe, and then do this pipe as well. And then after I finish that, I think I'm just gonna finish the exhaust, and then I'm gonna do the intercooler, finish the piping, and that's it. Okay, so I was working on this pipe. This is gonna be the dump tube for the wastegate, and it's just gonna be pointing down. So let me show you where it goes. So pretty much it's just gonna go right here, and it's just gonna point down. So I'm gonna go back to the I'm gonna start working on the downpipe, and I'm gonna try to finish the exhaust, and then I'm gonna go back to the intercooler piping. Okay, so I got my pieces right here. I just cut a couple of them, and now this is a flange. So I'm gonna put this on the turbo, and I'm gonna start doing my downpipe. I think I'm gonna use something like this with an angle, and then I'm just gonna weld these pieces together, and I'm just gonna start doing my own angles. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys once I have at least the downpipe started. I'll show you guys how it looks. Okay, so I put those pieces together, and I already have the top portion of the downpipe. So I'm barely about to start bringing it down. So I'm gonna start. I just need an angle. I think like a 7-degree angle, pretty much a straight pipe with a 7-degree cut. So I'm gonna start working the way to the bottom, and once I take it off, I'll show you guys how it looks. I mean, I'm not a professional welder, but I mean, I think it's pretty good. I mean, the way it came out, so it's together in one piece, pretty solid. It penetrated pretty good. So I'm gonna continue working on the downpipe. Okay, so I'm almost done with the downpipe. All I gotta do is weld this last piece. I'm gonna be welding the flange as well. I'm gonna clamp it with the B-band. So I just gotta weld this piece at the end, the B-band, and that's gonna be it for my downpipe. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the downpipe. So this is how it looks. Not the greatest. I'm not a welder, so I mean, I kind of did okay on these welds over here on this flange. They kind of look better. I mean, I was getting a little bit better on my welds, but I still need more practice. But I mean, it penetrated pretty good, so I'm happy the way it came out. So I'm not gonna install it right now because I need to completely bolt down the manifold, and I need to completely bolt down the turbo. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna completely bolt down the turbo and the manifold, and then once I get ready, I'm gonna install my downpipe, and I'm gonna finish the rest of the exhaust. So I should be able to finish everything right now. It's not a big deal. And then I'm gonna move on to the intercooler. Okay, so here's my intercooler bracket. So this one's gonna go right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this down, and then I'm gonna finish bolting down the manifold, the turbo. I still gotta install this fitting to the turbo. This is for the return. I already bolted down the one on the oil pan. You can see it right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this down, and then I'm gonna finish bolting down the manifold, the turbo, the downpipe, and then I'm gonna continue the piping for the turbo, and then I'm gonna go to the intake side, but I still gotta do like a flange. I think I'm just gonna cut this one off, and I'm gonna weld another flange so that I can bolt down my other throttle body right here. Okay, so I just finished bolting down the manifold, the turbo, the downpipe, and I was gonna start working on the intercooler piping, but before I do that, I still gotta finish the exhaust. I'm not done with the exhaust. I gotta connect the downpipe to the existing exhaust. So I'm gonna do that right now, and then I'm gonna come back to the drain. I wanna do the drain. I have to remove the housing so I can bolt down the turbo. So I'm gonna take advantage, and I'm gonna do the drain for the turbo. And once I finish that, I'm gonna put the housing back on. I'm gonna clock it the right way. I gotta clock the turbo so you could move it around. So I'm gonna clock it the right way, and then I'm gonna go back to the intercooler piping. Okay, so I just went ahead and I finished the return. So I just did a hose right here to the turbo. I put on insulation so that it doesn't, like, the heat doesn't melt anything. It shouldn't melt it regardless. I mean, it takes a decent amount of heat, but either way I wrapped it, so it's wrapped with the heat wrap. But I'm pretty much done with this side. The housing, it's still loose because I don't know how I'm gonna run the piping, but everything over here, it's pretty much done. So I'm gonna finish the bottom of the exhaust, and now I'm gonna be able to work on the intercooler. Okay, so now I'm gonna finish the exhaust. I'm just gonna connect these two pipes to the downpipe. So here's my downpipe, and so I got rid of this pipe. I'm not gonna use this white pipe anymore. Instead, I'm gonna be using this one, and I'm gonna connect the other two pipes with this pipe. I'm gonna cut it in half and connect them, and I'm gonna be using this flexible piece so that I can connect the downpipe more easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld all these together, and then I'll show you guys how it looks. Okay, so I've been working on the rest of the exhaust. So this is the downpipe right here, and I'm gonna continue the rest of the exhaust. I'm gonna connect it to the white pipe. So the white pipe is already welded. The two pieces that I was gonna cut, I already welded them together to the existing exhaust. So all I gotta do is connect this pipe to the Y pipe. I think I'm gonna put a flange right here so I can bolt it on, and that's it. I can go back to the intercooler piping. But look at the time. I went past 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna end the video right here. I'm almost done with that exhaust, and I'm gonna move on to the intercooler piping. I'm excited because I want to try to weld everything together. I just want to use a couple of couplers for the intercooler piping, and then I'm gonna move on to the intake side of the engine, which is gonna be exciting as well. But like I said before, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any comments, please leave a comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.